What? Did you have an expectation that I was going to say something? There is an often used phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. While that's not directly applicable to expectations, there is certain similarities. And there's another phrase of a similar nature that probably should be examined much more closely by people. And that is, the road to disappointment is paved with expectations. If you're currently involved in a relationship with someone, I mean a real relationship where you're actually spending time together, face-to-face time, living together, married, engaged, whatever, but spending real time with another person, how have you found that relationship to be developing between the two of you compared to what your expectations were of that relationship before you actually met that person? Is it better? Is it not as good? If it's not as good, is your disappointment level high enough that you really don't want to remain in that relationship, but are staying in it? Then you have to ask yourself, why are you staying in a relationship that is a disappointment to you? Do you think that being a martyr to that relationship will somehow improve it? On the other hand, perhaps you're one of the fortunate people or fortunate couples, and the relationship is actually exceeding your expectations. Now, if that's true for both people involved, that's a wonderful thing, no doubt about it. Now, recently, I've been reading a lot of different things in different groups and stuff on the internet groups, Facebook, things like that, about people and their expectations of relationships. And I find it a little amusing that people talk about the fact that they don't want to be judged for who they are or their past actions. Yet they have expectations about who they want to be with, what kind of a relationship they want to have. Well, in that sense, expectations is just another word for judgment. The other surprising things I think, is with the advent of the internet, dating sites, Skype, and all these other ways to communicate with people. Facebook, you can post pictures and videos, and Facebook and YouTube channels, and all kinds of things like that. All manner of ways to communicate with one another that are used when people can't physically be in the same place and spend actual time together. And I wonder about these people who become involved in these internet relationships, and they express undying love and eternal devotion to a person that they have never actually met face to face, someone they have never actually spent time with. To get a little risque, someone they have never actually exchanged bodily fluids with. How can anyone possibly be sincere about expressing eternal love and undying devotion to someone that they have never actually met? What kind of expectations must be building up between two people involved in that kind of a relationship? I mean, certainly it happens, not just between expats or foreign men and Filipinas. It happens all over the world, even in the same country. Dating sites are not just in the Philippines, they exist everywhere. And there's always that element of eager anticipation and expectations that we have about the other person before we actually meet them. Even if we spend countless hours in texting and conversations and video phone calls and all kinds of things like that, until you actually get together with someone and see how things work out between you, you're dealing with almost exclusively expectations. Is this a good thing? I don't know. I am a human being, a human man, just like other human men all over the planet. And certainly I have had expectations about people that I was interested in and wanted to develop a relationship with. I'm certainly not immune, but I am aware of the potential for great self-deception, I guess you might say, when it comes to expecting something from or about another person that will not really reveal itself until time is spent with that person. Actual face-to-face. You're in my physical space, I'm in your physical space. That kind of time. I don't think there's a substitute for that. Anyway, hopefully, if you're involved in that kind of a relationship, or any kind of a relationship, you've been honest with yourself about what your expectations about the other person and about the relationship are. And whether or not your expectations have been fulfilled. I mean, are you talking to your partner about what your expectations are? Are they talking to you? And of course, expectations come into play in life all the time because we have expectations about ourselves, about how we live our life, about how our lives will develop from whenever we're young enough or in a younger age, when we go out, if possible, and start living our life for ourselves, and where we wind up X number of years later. Now, hopefully we don't lie to ourselves too much about what our self-expectations are. I mean, when I was a youngster, I certainly didn't have expectations about myself of becoming a professional athlete. I just don't have the talents or the qualities necessary for that. Like many young men, I had interest in certain sports, but I wasn't obsessed by them. And my participation in them was pretty minimal because I realized that that is not a place where my abilities, my natural abilities, were. But when it comes to relationships and meeting people or hoping to meet people, what kind of expectations do you have about that whole situation? I think it's something that's very important for people to think about and to be honest with themselves about what their expectations are in a relationship and about the other person, and to be very honest with the other person about what your expectations of them are. And of course, the other part of that is they have to be realistic and honest about what their expectations of you and about you and in being in a relationship with you. What are those expectations? Clarity, honesty, sincerity. I think all of those kinds of things, certainly all centered around communication, will help to clear up any misunderstanding that expectations or unrealistic expectations can bring about. And don't set your hopes so high, your expectations so high, that when you actually meet this person, if things don't click, things don't work out on the first or second meeting, are you going to be crushed by that? Why would you be? You know it's an integral, important part of any relationship between two people is that time that you actually spend together, to be in each other's faces, as it were, to be in each other's space, to see if you can live together, if you're comfortable together, if you have unrealistic or false expectations about that, and especially if you have unexpressed expectations about that. Will your road to disappointment be paved with expectations? Or will it be a road to your happiness paved with fulfilled expectations? Anyway, I'm going to get off of my soapbox now and let you get on with your lives. Bye.